Now, please join me in welcoming our panel discussion in conversation with Amphico and Barbour. This session is going to be moderated by Lizzie Dakin, the Sustainability Manager of UKFT. And Lizzie will be joined by Claire, who we've already heard from, and Katie from Barbour. So, Lizzie, over to you.
Hello. So on today's panel, we'll hear from both a heritage brand and a pioneering startup, exploring how their different perspectives and collaboration can turn innovation into practical, scalable solutions for the industry. So Katie, could you briefly introduce yourself and your role and share Barbour's sustainability ambitions?
Yes, of course. Is that working? Everyone all good? Fabulous. I won't do karaoke. But so I'm Katie. I head up sustainability at Barbour. If you're not familiar with Barbour, it's a heritage brand, family owned, been going about 130 years now. We're famed for our waxed jackets, but we also do apparel, footwear, accessories, and sell globally. I won't spend too long on our sustainability strategy because of time, but no surprises, it's the usual stuff. We've got our SBTi targets, we've got commitments to nature, water, chemicals, so clearly this topic is very relevant.
Thank you. And Claire, we've already heard about Amphico's great work earlier. Could you briefly remind us of your role at Amphico and how you work with companies to introduce new solutions?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Claire and I'm working at Amphicolor leading the Amphicolor project, which you saw a little bit about earlier. And in terms of how we work with companies to introduce new solutions, we're just at the very early stages of commercializing both of our technologies. And so we really work with brands and rely on brands to have conversations to understand, what they're looking for, what they need, and we try to gather all of these insights and then drive it back through into our R&D. So that's the stage that we're at essentially and how we're working with brands at the moment.
Fantastic. And Katie, if Barbour were to choose an innovator or innovation partner, what would you be looking for to ensure the right fit?
Yes, so a lot of this I think has been covered. Things like quality, durability. The absolute fundamental is, why is it necessary? We've got sustainability commitments. We all want to do the right thing. But when I go to the board and say we need to make this change, I'm going to be asked about return on investment, why we need to do this, why do we need to do it now, why do we need to prioritize this over something else? So having that absolute clarity. Legislation can be a great driver, and maybe we know that the benefit we want to achieve is sustainability, but can we actually talk about some other things which are going to really pique the interest of other people in the room? We've talked about other things here already, but just to add to that list of requirements, there's also just things like minimum order quantities. Can we cope with that? Can we cope with production in different parts of the world? And also, if it does include a change to supply chain and bringing in new partners, even just things like they've got to pass the social audits that we do. And if you've got very small new businesses, sometimes have not been set up to do that.
It really does sound like a big task and something which you'll probably have to speak to wider stakeholders about. So when you are working with a partner, how do you make sure that you do involve the right stakeholders to embed those collaborations across the business?
Yeah, those partners are so key. I think sustainability can be quite a strange role. You can end up being sort of jack of all trades, master of none. So my background is not fibre technologies. So it's absolutely key to bring in the people who do know. So within the business, you need your technicians, you need design, you need supply chain to be on board, but they need to have been set that mandate at a senior level. They're busy people. Someone needs to tell them, give them space, resource, time, permission to make mistakes. We can try something, it doesn't work. let's move on to try something else or fix those problems. And then beyond the business, the stakeholders are key. So obviously the innovation partner, we need to work with them very, very closely, but our supply chain is so fundamental. If we know that a supplier, be it a fabric or a finished product, is already working with a solution and it is working, people will listen. If it's totally brand new, the supplier's never heard of it, is going to be a challenge.
And Claire, bringing it back to you to hear from the innovators side, how do these collaborations and insights actually help you shape and refine your innovations?
Yeah, so from the innovator side, these conversations or collaborations are basically they're everything for us, because at the end of the day, that's who we're producing them for, and making that's the hand that we need to hold and to really make sure we're oriented in the right direction. So I suppose like really having the clarity of discussion and the transparency and all of this kind of stuff, I would say it drives a lot of what we do, and knowing what's most important and all of the things you mentioned, MOQs and all the things you need is the kind of thing that helps us focus our efforts. The main thing I think that we need.
And when we heard from you earlier, you mentioned how your approach is different from traditional methods. So what's been the biggest challenge in getting something new like this out into the market?
I think one of the biggest challenges is essentially like kind of explaining how we're different. And we have, with Amphico specifically, there's quite a few points at which it differs. And when we speak to, for example, someone like yourself in sustainability, they might be thinking about how to communicate that internally to their team. And they might be thinking, okay, the designers will see something in this, and then maybe another department like fiber resourcing might see something in this. So it's kind of like even how we narrate the story to be relevant for a specific business. That's actually a challenge. And then also communicating the kind of benefits. We're asked about that, how are you better or how are you different? And we need to be kind of like measuring or quantifying that in some way. And
kind of building on that quantification piece, and that discussion around reducing environmental impact, how important are standards and certifications for Barbour when selecting materials to verify to ensure environmental performance is met?
Yes, we all have a bit of greenwashing legislation, so they're very important in that regard. It was mentioned earlier, and I agree, not only do we need things to be certified, it's got to be something that means something to the consumer. But we do understand the limits that can have on new innovations. I think even things like life cycle assessments, they're a bit of a tricky one because you need it to get the attention of the brand to say this can be a sustainability improvement. It can show up in our carbon data because we can use those figures when we do our carbon reporting or water reporting. However, to use that life cycle assessment as the basis of a green claim, I would be very nervous about doing it because what are you comparing it to? You've maybe used a different methodology to do any sort of claim that says this saves this much water. So when we start looking at the rationale for taking on that new innovation, the sort of marketing piece is probably going to be quite quiet. It will help brand sustainability. It just might be something we can't talk about in certain ways.
And bringing it back to you, Claire, we've heard how vital collaboration between brands and innovators are in learning together and shaping solutions. From your perspective, how important is this collaboration in scaling innovation to market?
Yeah, it's kind of everything. And obviously you've seen some of the case studies earlier where some of those who are a little bit more advanced than our company are able to showcase that and show how they've got the buy-in. So we see it in like a couple of different places, but also, for example, in how we're able to get fundraising from investors. They want to see that we've got collaborations, or if we don't have things already in the works, then have we got commitments or have we got, letters of intent? And so basically this kind of long journey, whether or not it takes, 2 years to get something going or somebody wants to do something shorter term, support can come in many different types of ways at different points in the process.
It really seems like collaboration is key in this. To wrap up the conversation, I'd like to hear from both of you. What excites you most about the future of dyeing and finishing innovation?
Well, lots. I mean, this has been fabulous. I've just been taking notes. I think a really good thing with this is it feels like sustainability, and I've been doing it a long time now, it's been overly simplistic for a very long time. And we've had a mindset of this fabric is good, it's recycled, and this is bad, it isn't, or whatever it might be. The reality is not that simple, and I think this is really starting to unpick that. And it also brings intention back into design. What is the purpose of that product, and how are you making sure the finishing of that is suitable for that purpose? And if there's not a purpose of the product, why are we making it, would be my view.
I think I'm excited, also by everything we've seen, and also just like these, both people who are doing kind of incremental change, and also like, the leap forward, and, everything is going to be the post-carbon lab, that was super amazing to see alongside some of the solutions like ours that are perhaps nearer term working on some of the recycled synthetic. So I think it's like both of these all happening at once, I think is super fascinating. And then I'm also, really excited about things like legislation coming in and making people, make a change.
Well, thank you both to Claire and Katie for such an insightful discussion. I think for a lot of us in this room, sometimes innovation can feel daunting, but from this conversation and many today, through collaboration, then we can challenge some of those old processes and work on performance and sustainability for the next generation of textiles.